All right. So, real quick, the Mac Morey dog story, and then I'll get to David regarding these dog illnesses. The story came up because of a new respiratory illness that is attacking dogs, primarily on the west coast of the United States. In Oregon, we've heard several instances of these symptoms for a new dog illness. Dogs become infected with respiratory infections. And, dogs, particularly those at dog parks or boarding facilities, it's the most common for them to catch it there. This new, yet to be identified illness seems to be more dangerous because it leads to pneumonia and it does not respond well to antibiotics. There are some suggestions that this is in some fashion related to COVID-19. I've not seen anything that would lead me to say that on air with any degree of certainty, although I note that those suggestions are being made online. Now, this led to the dog park story, which was Mac Morey told the dog park story, and I think we can relate it on air. I hope so, because we're going to. He said that he went to a dog park, and Belle, help me out with the details, because you were there when he told this story. As a matter of fact, he told me this story, and I was so flabbergasted by the story, I said, tell Belle the story you just told me about the dog park.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say I was flabbergasted. I would have just presented the lady the one finger salute.
Yes.
And walked on in with my dog.
So Mac Morey he doesn't have a split day, but he has an hour or hour and a half of time in the middle of his day. Obviously he produces the Chris Handa show in the mornings. He is also our afternoon news anchor, and he comes back and begins his afternoon news duties at 2:00. There's a slight break, although Joan Jones is filling in very, very well during the midday time slot, and we appreciate that. So Max says that he decided on this particular day to take his dog Copper to a dog park. Doesn't normally do that, sometimes takes a little walk, but this day he thought, well, I had the time, it's a nice day, let's go to the dog park. And there's a dog park near his house or place of residence. And he takes the dog to the dog park, and if you've ever been to a dog park, you know how it goes, right? There are two gates, and this is to prevent dogs from escaping, and you go into the staging area while they're still on the leash, and then you get into that area and you close that door, so you're enclosed into the gated area, and then you unleash your dog, and then you open the inside gate, and then you let your dog on into the dog park to gallivant with the other dogs. If you've never been to a dog park, it is a big no-no to keep your dog on leash in the dog park. Dogs are pack-based animals. And what happens, the dynamic when a dog is still on leash, is it draws other dogs to them. Those dogs that are still on leash, and I'm just giving you a little dog whisperer one-on-one from Matt Murphy, a.k.a. what was the dog whisperer's name? I was going to make a joke for a second.
Caesar Milan.
Caesar Milan. Yeah, a.k.a. Caesar Milan. Murphy Milan. If you leave the one dog on the leash, that dog tenses up because that dog feels like it's confined and cannot freely move amongst the larger pack of dogs that it has found itself in. And so that dog gets tense. Other dogs come to greet that dog, and that dog doesn't have an escape route, and that escalates the tension. And because of that, if you keep your dog on leash, you are begging for a dog fight in a dog park, and you're going to get one. Whereas if you take them off leash, typically dogs will self-monitor themselves. And even if there's a mild, and I'm not talking about aggressive animals at the dog park, but if there's a mild dust-up, those dust-ups tend to handle themselves at the dog park with a fair amount of speed. Okay, so Mac, this has never happened to me at the dog park. Mac comes in to the staging area where he's getting ready to take the leash off of Copper. And Belle, I want you to play the role of Mac Morey here as he related what this woman. So there was a woman that was there that had her dog there, and she told him no, that he couldn't bring his dog in.
Yeah, she kind of gave him the wave off and was like, "No, your dog's got bad energy."
No. Yeah, I'm just, and he said, the woman said to him, no, I'm not feeling it. No, you can't come in. And he's like, what? And she's like, no, it's no good. It's no good. Like, her dog was there. There were several other dogs there. And she told him his dog wasn't allowed.
Like, this is her private business or something.
Right. Like, it's her property. Like, it's her dog park. But, and I think you and I asked on several occasions, at several times during the story, was this woman affiliated with the dog park in any way? Nope. Did she own the dog park? Nope. And I was just fascinated by this. Mac, being the nice guy that he is, and also having a certain time constraint, he said, I didn't want to get into it with her. I didn't want to cause some sort of rift. So he just decided, look, this is weird. I'm just going to walk Copper, and not do the dog park today and come back at a different time. He decided not to elevate the confrontation.
Well, she'd also said something about there was a dog already in there that her dog had some weird energy with. And it's like, as if there can't be two.
Right. Like, but you don't own the dog park, ma'am. And if your dog is uncomfortable with other dogs,
leave.
Then maybe you should leave.
You're the one to go. You don't get to tell other people they can't come in, especially Mac.
And so you and I both were begging Morey to get his dog back to the dog park when this woman was still there. I don't know what it is about me. I think you're the same. I want this woman in my life now. I want this confrontation. I need this confrontation.
It's a great way to vent.
I want this woman to tell me that I'm not allowed in a public dog park because her dog feels uncomfortable with me or my dog. I want that in my life. And it reminded me of one of the weirdest, I think I've told this story in the past. Have I ever told the story about the dude with John Henry that wanted to say hello to John Henry, but wanted to wait for John Henry to invite him to say hello to him?
Yeah, but it's been a while.
We were at the dog park, and I found out that this guy literally did own the dog park. He donated, he was a rich eccentric, and he had donated like $500,000 to build the dog park. But he's at the front of the dog park, and we're coming to the dog park, and he says to me, hey, do you mind if I say hello to your dog? And I said, no, of course not. It was John Henry. And he goes over and sits down relatively in front of John Henry, kind of positions himself in front of John Henry, sits down on his butt, and Henry kind of ignores him. Like, doesn't look at him. And so the guy sits there for a minute, doesn't say anything, doesn't move his hands, and finally gets up out of his sitting position, looks at me, has never acknowledged John Henry, didn't touch John Henry, looks at me and says, maybe next time, and leaves. To which I said, weirdo. I remember saying that.
You actually said that to him?
Not to him. He was walking away. But I said it out loud. I couldn't help myself. So
funny enough, the guy came back and said, oh, your dog's got weird energy. He's got to
go. Right. My wife's over there. She's talking to that dude with that dog, Copper. You need to leave. So flash forward like an hour later, we're getting ready to leave the dog park. And the guy walks over and says, hey, can I try to say hello again? And I said, sure. And he sits down again. And this time Henry's a little, he's got, some energy out. He's not as excited to get into the dog park. He's got his tongue all hanging out there. And he kind of looks at the guy. And the guy looks at him. They kind of eyeball each other. And the guy puts his hand up on Henry's head like he's doing the Spock mind melt thing. You know what I mean? Like
mind meld.
Whatever. I knew. You know what? I knew I said it wrong, and as soon as I said it wrong, I knew that you, Star Trek nerd, would correct me on it.
I had to, otherwise they were going to do it on the text line.
Yes, you have my back. I appreciate you. So, yes, mind meld. It really should be a mind melt. It's more like a grilled cheese or a patty melt. It really is, because the cheesy good, like your mind's cheesy goodness is getting into my mind. Why is it called meld? What is that?
Because their minds are intermingling.
Like a melt. Like a melt.
Telepathy.
Like they're melting together. Anyway, it's like he was doing this Vulcan mind meld thing. But he holds his hand up. He doesn't pet Henry. He doesn't say hey to Henry. He asks me if he can. He doesn't even ask me Henry's name. He just sits down. Henry looks at him. He puts his hand up to Henry's head. They sit like that for a minute. And I swear I'm not making any of this up.
The guy's done the mind meld that he knows Henry's name because Henry telepathically told him.
And he stands up and looks at me and says, "Thank you," and then leaves. And you know what I said for the second time?
Weirdo.
And then I find out somebody else walks up to me and goes, "Oh, that's Mr. Jackson." And I was like, "Well, who the hell's that guy? That's a weirdo." And he goes, "He's worth a lot of money. He built this dog park." And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "No, he donated all the money to build this dog park."
That's what Max should have done, is he should have looked at the woman and said, "Lady, I built this dog park."
And I'm like, well, that doesn't give him carte blanche to sit at the entry to the dog park and be a weirdo. That was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Like he's it was really like he thought he was telepathically communicating with the dog. Anyway. And yes, to answer Terry's question, the mind melt is very much like a tuna melt. I recommend it on rye bread with just light butter on the outside. It's going to be delicious.